This is WOMM LP operating out of Burlington, Vermont, 105.9, The Radiator. Good evening, it's The Rocket Shop. I am your host, Tom Proctor, and with me tonight is 8084. Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm pretty well. How are you guys doing this evening?
Yeah. It was a lovely day in
Great.
Vermont today, so how can you not be happy on a day like this?
It was gorgeous. I think I may have even got slightly burnt, which is not something I expected.
You out in the sun?
Yeah, I was out in the garden making Halloween decorations most of the day, which is a pretty good way to spend a Wednesday. Well, anyway, we like kicking it off with a song. So what have you got for us?
Go ahead.
Me? Start the song? Okay.
Oh, you want to just going to launch into it?
If you tell us what it is.
You wanted us to play
first,
music.
that'd be
Okay.
great.
Wait.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were here for that.
A song would be phenomenal.
Yeah, we can do.
Yeah. A little song
This
we
one-
call
you
Home. It seems fitting.
It is.
On such a
We are-
lovely day in
This
Vermont.
does feel like my house. it has that vibe to it. So.
Tell Cal you said that. 1, 2, 3, wow.
Well, I stood in the fire, spent my time in the sea, and I've forgotten the last time, oh, I felt like me. Strangers in the mirror, strangers in my bed, strangers everywhere, strangers in my head. Building walls that keep me in. It's never easy when you're leaving. It's never easy when you're gone. It's never easy to believe it. It's never easy to be that strong. 'Cause there are days that come along that shake your body. Run light and drowning. If you stop and take a look outside yourself, you might just find your way back home. Find your way back home. Your way back home. Brick by brick, stone by stone, tear it down on my own. And the walls are beginning to crumble. And she said, open up your heart, open up your mind, open up the door, let me treat you kind. Take my hand, and I'll lead you there. It's never easy when you're leaving. It's never easy when you're gone. It's never easy to believe it. It's never easy to be that strong. 'Cause there are days that come along that shake your body. Throw a line and drown in. If you stop and take a look outside yourself, you might just find your way back home. Find your way back home. Find your way back home. Back home. When time will tell you that pain will pass you by. When time will
And time will
tell you that love can be so kind.
Okay, Home There by 8084. So you guys have been kicking around for a little while, I'd say, fairly well established.
Just a little while.
That's an interesting way of putting it. Kicking around.
Yeah, kicking around for a while. So it's been quite a long and storied career. But to start from the beginning, I'm assuming you all come from Vermont, hence 8084.
Actually, you know, funny story. Nobody's actually from Vermont.
No
here.
one's from Vermont
except our
here.
drummer, who's not here.
Like, oh, I see.
Right.
So
Because he's
the
in
the one
Vermont.
the
He's in
Vermont,
Vermont.
representative is actually not here today. So yeah, how did you four meet? Back in 1982.
Yeah.
1982.
Well, I'm from Massachusetts. Sorry.
speak very
I don't
slowly
take
then.
responsibility for the driving down there. But I grew up in the western part of Massachusetts, and I was putting together a band, and looking for a guitar player that played some keys. And so went to see some booking agent told me about this band that was looking for someone. Long story short, I met a gentleman by the name of Charlie Hawthorne, Chuck Hawthorne, who became our keyboard player, and we put the band together. And this was May, June of '82. Andre and Frank joined us in November of that same year, and it's been the same guys ever since.
And did you guys just take off immediately? Was it more of a kind of a slog up until you got to the point where you were kind of doing big tours and going to Europe and whatnot?
Well, I like to think we're still slogging.
Yeah,
We're good at
slugging
slogging.
Well, you've been fairly successful. I mean, the vast majority of bands, you know, they get together for a few years. They maybe make an album or two, and that's sometimes just as far as it goes. And you guys go a bit further.
Being with anyone, you know, it's like a marriage. It's 40 years. That's a long time. I mean,
It's a long time that you've been doing something you do like doing.
yeah. But you know, we've been through so many things together, and I think a lot similar to a marriage. It either strengthens the marriage or it breaks the marriage. And I think in this case, if you have the right combination of people and the right, the right personalities and synergy, and you have some success, you know, it strengthened us. It makes us better people.
Yeah.
To be honest, we have had moments of separation, but we always come back. So
come back.
that's the thing, yeah. And back in the day, to answer your original question, when we first started off, you know, it was we wanted to make a living at this. We also wanted to do original songs. We knew that, but in order to make a living, we played the popular songs of the day so we could work. And back then, Vermont was such a different scene. It was a good place for us to all land. You could work 6 nights a week. There was always work everywhere. It's not, and that's definitely gone away. So we miss that. But it was the first step was doing the covers, and then we right from the get-go brought in originals, started writing some pretty interesting stuff.
Well, it was one of those. You have a choice, you know, because if you're playing your own music, you're not going to make a lot of money, and you want to survive. So you have a choice. I can bag groceries, or I can play a cover song and get better at my craft.
Right.
And that's what we do. We chose, you know.
And that's how we became the redheaded stepchildren of the Burlington music scene. We're always, and
That cover band.
Yeah, we it's a funny thing. We had to deal with that sort of stereotype of being, they're just a cover band.
But it was only here.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest
It's a
thing.
funny
It was
thing,
only
you're-
here. Everybody else, it was.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Burlington is, God, we love Burlington. But it was a funny music scene because we were always kind of, there was always this sort of condescending attitude because we made money playing music. We earned, that was our day job. Our day job was making music, which makes us prostitutes of a sort to the music. So I guess in the true artistic sense, we were musical whores.
Oh,
In the best of all possible ways.
I see.
I don't mind that.
Yeah.
And so this is just a reputation you had in like maybe Burlington or Vermont, whereas obviously the rest of the United States and
We're loved universally, except
Well, you know,
except
that's the funny
right
thing
here
is-
in Burlington, where you certainly have a few axes to grind still.
no,
It's
No,
not like
no.
that at all. It's more the fact that we have had a lot of success,
Right.
but yet we never get recognized locally. But everywhere else we get it. But that's okay. I mean, because we live here, and maybe that's okay. But it's a different scene here. It's just that the music's a little bit different, and if you're an original artist here, there's not a lot of commercial hair rock bands anymore.
Right.
In fact, there's none anywhere. But I mean,
Anywhere,
the
literally
song we
anywhere.
Just did there
Yeah.
is something from 2006. It's more of an Americana feel, and so we kind of changed the direction. We stayed together, but we didn't keep playing hey, let's play another 80s. I'll write a song. Let me see. I got 3 things to choose. I can talk about my girlfriend breaking up with me. I can talk about sex, or I can talk about, something else. And that was it. But when we realized you don't have to be that 80s band anymore and you can just do what you want.
But you can if you want to.
Yeah.
Right.
We still got that in us. I mean, that's in our DNA, but...
I do quite like the fact that you yourself reference yourselves as like hair rock, hair metal. So that's definitely what I.
Well, we don't.
You don't. But there is a.
I think you know what I think we are. I think we're a. If somebody says, "What do you guys like?" I kind of, in my mind, I'd like to think we're like Bad Company. But in the old original stuff, and Paul Rodgers, what a great singer. I mean, I could only hope to ever touch that. But once you get, it's like anything. Once you do something and you get a certain, people start thinking of you in a certain way. It's really hard to break that stigma.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying this from an outsider looking at the videos on your website, for instance. There was a great recording of you guys back in the day. It's grainy, it's black and white.
Yeah.
You have got the hair. You've got the the shirts all ripped up and stuff.
All the affectations of metal.
Right, you're doing all the moves. But back then, how was like gender and gender identity viewed? Because at the time, that was hyper masculine. Like that was, several bands out there at the time, like Motley Crue and whatnot, were seen as international sex figures. But these days, that would be seen as gender non-conforming. You guys were perming your hair. You had more makeup than most women. So was that a view? What was the view inside that community at the time? Because you were doing stuff that would be seen as kind of feminine.
I don't know if we were actually that analytical about it. I don't think we ever actually. I think there was a certain de rigueur. That was almost the uniform of the day. So you had hairspray, you had you teased your hair, you did all these things, and I don't think we ever actually went to the depth of actually thinking about what we were doing. It was just what you did.
We'd go play someplace and 3/4 of the crowd looked just like us.
Right.
And that's just because that was the dress of the day, So, I don't think we really thought about that.
Yeah, we're not
obviously, early in the band, if you're wearing really tight spandex,
right,
and you're wearing a jock strap or not,
yeah,
there's leaves a lot in the imagination or nothing at all.
Right.
But I used to get a lot of crap from people back then. Guys would come up, and just harass me during the break, and go on and on. And these guys were they were a little more, at that time I was probably a little more. I was thinner, and it was.
You were more singery back then.
It was more singery.
She was a lot more singery.
You had softer hands.
Does that mean?
Yeah, that's what you think. Just what you think. All due respect, bless his heart.
So there was kind of a duality there, because you had those kind of tough guys coming up to you at the break, like trying to start a fight.
I got fist fights all the time.
But at the same time, this look was seen as hypersexualized masculinity. So it's strange how you had that kind of duality there, where something very hyper masculine was actually also seen as threatening. So that it definitely kind of plays into this whole gender fluidity that you saw at kind of the height of the 80s.
It's really interesting. I never thought about it in terms like that. And now
we're cerebral. Now we're thinking of all this stuff, all these things that went through our brain, the process that we went through.
No, I will never put on those red leather pants. As much as people say you should. Are you kidding? That's not what I do anymore.
Yeah.
It's just we've changed, and we're not still those same 80 guys.
Yeah, no, of course not. It just must have been a fantastic moment to be in at the time in the 80s when you had that moment. But as you said, you kind of come out of that, and that did allow you to kind of start changing. And I imagine you can't be in a band together 40 years without kind of meandering through the genres a little bit.
I think it's everything's an evolution. I don't think we ever stop. I mean, those are facets of our musical personality and character. I don't think you ever really lose that. I mean, there are times when we're playing that. When I'm playing it, I get lost in it. I'm in that moment, and I'm not thinking about anything else. And I might be doing the same thing I did back in the 80s. I don't know. People say, you make those funny guitar faces. Can you stop? No, I can't. I'm completely. I don't know what I'm doing.
Stop being yourself. Stop being yourself and be someone else.
I think it's disingenuous if you actually try not to do something. You know what I mean? As opposed to just, the freedom. I always tell people. People say, "Well, it must be scary getting on stage like that." And I said, No, it's the exact opposite. Getting on stage is like it's the only place in the world where the whole world melts away. You don't have a car payment, you don't have an electric bill. You get on stage, the world melts away, and you're in that moment, and you got people out there, and you're making music with your brothers here, and there's nothing better in the whole world than that.
Well, you guys are very much entertainers. I mean, watching videos.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got a stage presence. You've obviously got charisma. There's things that you may or may not have practiced, but definitely look like you've done a few times before on stage. So, as everything's melting away, but you're also putting on a show, how does that kind of work? Do you kind of come up with that beforehand, or was that just something you were naturally good at?
I think when we get on stage, it just we became a heightened version of ourselves. I mean, I'm a practiceaholic. I mean, I know the song so well that I'm never actually thinking about the mechanics of it. I'm always thinking about just being in that moment. Just how can I make this moment bigger? Who can I reach in the audience? How can I connect, creating that conduit between ourselves and the audience? I mean, there's no better e-ticket ride than being on stage.
I know what we've been doing this for so long that after a couple of years, I knew what he was going to do before he knew he was going to do it. So it just, all these years with all his kicks, he's only got me once. And he meant to do it. So,
I made it look like an accident, though.
I probably deserved it. But,
Was that prior to one of the times the band split up? And
No, because we're brothers.
It was a Thursday.
We've gone everything. We've been shot at. We've been arrested. We've been through multiple relationship breaks, divorces. I mean, everything, deaths. And 40 years later, we're still sitting here, and the most fun I have now, when back then it was like, hey, you're in a band. Now it's like, hey, I'm in a band, I get to hang out with my friends and make music. And so it's come full circle for me in that way.
Right, yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm going to say that you've had, 4,500 live shows?
At least, yeah.
That was just last week.
These pants. Had knees
Yeah, right.
started, so.
Is there any? Obviously, it sounds like they've got multiple stories from across the decades. But were any of those particular gigs stand out for unusual reasons, for different reasons? Not for maybe the first time you played to a multi-thousand person crowd. Obviously, that one's going to stick out. Is there any kind of stick out that were like, that was a strange one?
Strange one.
A strange one.
You need to be more specific. Remember that one that wasn't strange?
Keep
Remember
it
that
somewhat
much?
PG because this is radio and all that.
There really are so many. I think probably one of the turning points for us was when we won this international contest up in Montreal called Rock Search, and that was back in '87. And we played at the Olympic Stadium Velodrome, and there were a lot of bands. Only two, I think, from the States originally, us and a band from Florida, and then everybody else was from across Canada. And when we won that, it was like that was a moment that just felt like this is definitely we made the right choice. This is what we want to do. Of course, then we followed that up with signing a management contract with the first one that came along, and totally blew it all out to hell.
That became a mess. But it was really cool at that time too, because here's that. Oh, wait a minute. We're just a cover band from Burlington. I'm sorry. But then we're being courted by the record labels, and so we end up. I can distinctly remember going to dinner with CBS at this Italian restaurant, and it was the president of CBS Canada, and he was sitting there oogling us. And I was like, I've made it. This is it. I'm here. We've arrived.
We jumped the gun.
Apparently, we had not yet made it.
Yeah.
So,
Who knew?
I mean, then our management company had problems with the producer, and the producer's his name was Aldo Nova, and they had problems together, and
It became our problems.
Became our problems. And then Chuck got killed in a car accident. And the band just kind of, but we kept it together for a couple of years, and then we got back together.
Yeah, that was a I'm sorry for interrupting, Rando, but that was when Chuck died. It was a Christmas Eve on the way home from a gig, and Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve.
Eve, yeah. And we were devastated, and we all gathered and we talked about, what are we going to do? Chuck really was the kingpin of the, he was the guy. And we decided first thing, we had a New Year's gig, and we said, well, we had a friend from Burlington sit in on keys, did the New Year's gig. Then we took a few weeks off. We decided we're not going to stop. Chuck wouldn't want us to stop, and we don't want to stop. We loved each other dearly back then, and we have occasionally from time to time since then. But so we had some friends. We had a lot of friends in the bands that were on the circuit. Like I said, you could make a living back then. And some of the better keyboard players came along. What's the name of Lane's studio? Lane Gibson from...
Lane Gibson recording. It used to be Chuck Eller's.
Yeah.
Lane Gibson recording.
Him and some other keyboard players, and they programmed. It was just when you could program keyboards and stuff. I'm popping here a lot. I'm sorry about that. And they programmed his parts, and we're still using some of those parts today in some of our songs, which is sort of a cool thing. So we still honor him in that way, and it's a weird thing because he's with us every step of the way. It's so
Well, it's kind of spooky, but yeah.
It is almost Halloween.
Yeah, I mean, kind of amazing that technology happened to coincide at this very moment in time. So you did manage to keep a part of him within the songs that you were making going forward.
The parts that he had actually sequenced, we still use them to this day, some of them. But then it also made us better musicians because now we're down a man. So now we got to pull it together and figure out how's 4 people do this. And out of respect, we never replaced him. So it certainly was. One of that's a moment I think we all share that was just devastating.
Yeah.
And then we kept going.
Yeah.
And life went on. And we still, the publishing deal we just signed is really interesting because they didn't have an estate, or it was weird how it was set up because some of the songs we had to figure out how are we going to get the royalties because he's a songwriter, he's listed on the songs. So ended up we reached out to his daughter, who works at a comic club in New York City, and she said, I'll sign the stuff, and so she gets his royalties now.
Oh, fantastic.
And they split them across the family. But that's the kind of stuff we had with the band. It was a family thing. It was a close thing, and still to this day, we have people that come to the show, they just are part of who we are.
Yeah, definitely want to talk to you about your fans in just a moment, but we'd love to hear another song if you can grace us one. Actually, we got you on for another 2, so...
what are we doing? Okay. That's good. No, I thought we were doing that last, but I'm good. No. He's got his fingers right there on
I'm
the
playing an F chord. We're playing Batman. I've come this far.
My fingers, so it doesn't sound like an F chord. I don't play these on stage.
Singers and guitars.
Can you tell?
It's a little caveat here, a little side journey. One of the things I hate probably more than anything, and these guys will attest to that. What is it, guys?
Peas.
And? Playing acoustic shows. And I hate that.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry. I thought you were liking these because that's why we're here.
We did one acoustic show before, and Andre he kept jumping up out of the chair. Literally, he jumped up twice and unplugged his guitar by mistake because he couldn't sit still.
It's just not my thing.
We can accommodate electric instruments here. We have the technology.
Well, next time. Damn it.
Okay.
And sitting, man, this is weird.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in my living room, so this works out. This is nice.
Anyway, song I wrote called Bad Man. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Just a refugee with a family to feed from the high cost of living. All around me, you don't know my name. Breaking all the rules, playing somebody's fool for the high cost of giving. Safe at home, then I see the lights go. Running from the law, got my foot to the floor. I'm not a bad man. Running down the road, got nowhere to go.
you're there with Bad Men. So you guys mentioned that, you know, you've got a lot of like diehard fans from back in the day, and I'm sure many you've picked up along the way as well. First of all, do they have a nickname? You know, like Taylor Swift has fans called Swifties. Does 8084 have a nickname for their fans?
We could say all kinds of inappropriate
Billy.
things right now, but
We call them Billy.
we won't.
Billy.
Yeah.
I don't know. We really don't. That's interesting. We need one though. Do you guys have any suggestions?
I mean,
Wait, foreheads.
yep, four heads. I guess
Foreskins?
would be.
I was being.
That's another
trying to
option.
avoid the low-hanging fruit.
Can I say
No
that?
pun intended.
I guess you could. It's just anatomy.
Internet,
I guess.
right?
Yeah.
It's anatomy.
It's anatomy, yeah. But yeah, so tell us about how the kind of the fan base grew and what it kind of looks like now. How does your fan base kind of interact with you these days? But yeah, first of all, like how did it grow and how did it feel when you sort of felt it grow?
Well, I think certainly social media has helped a lot. I mean, granted, a lot of our fan base don't know how to use computers, but no, it's become multi-generational. We have that's the beauty of this. It's fun to see that, you know, parents bring their kids and sometimes their grandkids to these shows, and no, it's been fun to watch. I mean, and like every band, we've got different pockets of fan bases in different cities around the country too. So, and we've got people coming from all over the country for our show in November.
Yeah, they're flying in. I mean, it's not unusual. And we just started the first three downloads online of digital downloads ourselves, where somebody didn't, we didn't have to go through somebody. We did it ourselves, built the site, and people buy our stuff from all over the globe, which is really, really interesting. And our first album, when we put our first album out, it sold just in
the Benelux countries, Belgium.
We're big in the Benelux countries.
Yeah, and Scandinavia, and Germany, and we sold a lot of stuff over
in
there.
excess of 10,000 units the first time around with the first album over there. And so that's when, when all that stuff was happening. But people don't forget. What's really interesting is they look you up and go, wow, you guys are still around. You're still breathing.
Well, it's funny because you in your formative years as teenagers in your 20s, you got these bands that really stick with you, and you go back. I look back and listen to those bands now, and I'm like, yeah, they're objectively. If I play them for Annie here, she'll hate them because
She's making a face right now.
She wasn't listening to a lot of them when I was listening to them, but I absolutely love them, still do, and I'm sure. There's a lot of fans out there that, first time around really got into you at that same age, and then their kids may have got into you at that same age, and then maybe the grandkids got into you at that same age as well. So, people do stick with fans like that.
We heard a funny. Somebody called into another radio interview we were doing the other day, and I'll be quick with this. She was 85 years old. She wanted to try to get some tickets.
We're giving away tickets.
We're giving away tickets. We said, well, for you, and she goes, no, for my two children, because they're big fans. And she goes, in fact, every morning when I go downstairs to do the laundry in the basement, we still have a poster of you young guys up. Thinking, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So, but it's just really interesting to see how, people come, because I think the one thing we still bring is authenticity. Mm-hmm. We're really into it. You can tell Andre's into it, and we're really into the synergy going back and forth instead of just sitting there and playing songs.
Well, see, one of the points you brought up before about performance, we don't think of ourselves as musicians. When you get on stage, you're an entertainer, you're a performer. And I always try, again, I work with a lot of young musicians in the studio, and I always try to explain them, when you're performing, be a performer. You're not a musician. Grab your audience, whatever it takes to do that, Think of the performance, the entertainment value. I mean, that's one of the things we always think about. Every show has the ebb and flow, momentum. We're doing song lists and things like that. There's so many facets to putting on a good performance, and it's not just go up there and play the songs. It's like watching paint dry. I mean, we've all seen those bands, and
right.
there are great bands that are incredible musicians, but they're not the best performers.
Right.
Again, you could listen to the record then.
And you guys, as a subject of fans, and you mentioned, Belgium, Germany, Scandinavian countries really seem to resonate with your sound and your music. What is it about your music that really brought in people from like, you know, continental and northern Europe?
They don't know us.
I think they just have really good taste. I think it is.
They're all very handsome and intelligent,
It's a
clearly.
conundrum.
That's that. I don't know. I think.
We
You
were.
know-
I'm sorry. It kind of goes back to the real people thing. You know, when we started touring around the country, and you know, leaving Vermont, and we had a band meeting, had a big decision. We were going to spend $100 on a camera, you know, because you needed a camera back then. Right. And we take pictures on the road and take pictures of our fans, and then we'd put together a newsletter, and we'd send the news. You know, we have people sign up and do all that kind of thing, and that's how the fan base sort of started to build. And the same thing happened when we started selling stuff in Europe. We'd get fan mail from Europe, and we'd write back. I mean, you know, we'd do that. I remember one particular letter we got from some guy. It was Czechoslovakia at the time, and boy, that's how old we are. And he learned how to speak English by watching Scooby Doo, and it was just like
better
this is
teacher
so
than
cool.
Scooby-Doo.
Poor boy.
So we stay in touch with them as well, and we respect them. I mean,
Do you guys ever still make it over to Europe to kind of do a gig over there, or is that?
No, I think I'm going on vacation. But
Yeah.
that's about it. It sounds like work at that point.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
Touring is being on the road is tiring. It takes a lot.
It's a
out
great
of you.
discipline, though. I mean, that's one of the things you learn when we'd go out on the road for 10 weeks at a time, maybe have a day off in a month, and so
Yeah.
you learn the making sure you're properly getting proper nutrition, you're getting rest. I mean, this was job one for us. It was all about making sure the next show was great. So it was never about anything to excess to the point where if it affected the show, then we didn't do it.
Right.
I mean, it was just you learn to take care of yourself on the road.
What was the largest tour you guys ever did? What was the longest in terms of longevity?
About 10 weeks or so. I think we go.
yeah, probably something like that. And we had a couple of gigs of note. We would our management company at the time, it was out of North Carolina called Showtime, and they thought it was a good idea to book us and wrap up in Panama City, Florida on a Sunday night and then perform in Grand Rapids, Michigan on a Tuesday. And
Wow.
they, and
I'm
they
assuming
set that
you're
up a couple
driving-
of times.
We drove across the
driving
Midwest,
rather
and
than flying
I
as
still
well?
remember that. I
Yeah,
still remember that
definitely
trip
driving, yeah.
across the Midwest because we saw one of the coolest thunder and lightning
Oh
storms.
man, that was intense.
Across the plains
was
that we'd
a-
ever seen.
yeah,
Those
yeah.
are the things that people you can't do. You know, those are the things you remember and pull you together that you enjoy as a
Right.
group.
We were really fortunate too that we had really dedicated crew members, because if we had to be setting up our stuff and going, I mean, that trip from Florida to Grand Rapids, those guys didn't get it. I don't think they got any sleep at all.
We left. We did. It was a weekend. We played in Panama City. We did a matinee on Saturday night, Sunday night. So we had 2 shows on each of those days. The crew tore down. We probably left around 4 a.m. probably.
Yep.
Drove straight from Panama City up to Grand Rapids, Michigan, nonstop. And I think we got there at 10 a.m. on Tuesday and had to play that night.
I'm guessing the coffee was pretty strong back in the day then, yeah.
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 Something like that anyway.
About stalking.
Well, yeah. Yeah, sure. We kept following. There was an artist at that time, Taylor Dane, that was out. In every place that we would go, we were like 3 days behind her. We were trying to catch up.
Did you have the
because
same
she was
touring
really
company?
good at that time. So we were trying to catch up, but we could never get there.
So you mentioned that you've got some digital downloads on your website and that you've got this big gig happening in November. So yeah, tell me a bit about what's happening right now. What's going on for A084 in 2022?
Well, the 40th year anniversary at Higher Ground on November 12th. We've been working towards that. We got together with the thoughts of maybe let's just do a gig. And we started having some band meetings. And the next thing you know, we were talking about, hey, we had fans requesting, hey, you never put that out. This is so long ago that we had, the first 2 albums were never on CD. Even.
And our demographic still.
And they still listen to CDs.
Yeah.
So we decided to put a CD out. So we did that, and then we signed the publishing deal. And then all of a sudden, this momentum started coming again. So it was kind of like, okay, what do we do with this? And then we started to have fun again. And that was one of the things. We were having fun at rehearsal and said, hey, you know what? This is good. Let's get the Higher Ground show done, and maybe let's do a couple more next year and see what happens. So that's kind of that's what's going on right now.
Okay, so when you say a couple more, you mean a couple more at Higher Ground or a couple more?
No,
elsewhere
we're
on
going
the
to
state?
do probably a few more shows. Some large, like, I won't go into the venues or I could. But, I mean, places like the Paramount Theater, we're looking at that, the Strand over in Plattsburgh,
Yeah.
Stuff like that. In places that, we had a poll and a draw, and, Rutland's one of those places. It's really funny,
Yeah.
Rutland is really funny.
Barry's kind of like Rutland, it's kind of the same. But Barry, the same thing. We might do the Barry Opera House, but so not big places, but 500, 600, 700 seat venues.
Still, definitely a lot of people around here would be clawing your eyes out to get those gigs and those.
Yeah,
venues.
the funny thing is, this show it surprised the heck out of us, and how dumb are we over all these years? That the tickets, we decided to do VIP tickets and charge $50 for a VIP ticket, and we don't get all that money, of course,
right?
But those sold out faster than the general admission tickets. It was like, well, how dumb are we? We should have done all the tickets to VIP.
Charge more money altogether. And
But,
Talk to everyone individually. I did want to ask one last question before we kind of put you onto the last song. As you've done so many gigs, you must have played every single type of stadium or a bar, dive bar, on the street, the works. You've probably done every single type of venue. What was your typographical favorite? When you were rocking up, so when you saw it, you're like, yeah, this one's going to be good because it's like X.
The Rocket Shop.
yeah.
All right,
Probably
all right,
Rocket
all
Shop.
right.
I'd have to say the Rocket Shop.
Said it right this time.
Yeah.
Google tried to kept telling me it was the Rocket Ship.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Go ahead. Favorite?
Not maybe specifically a place, but like a type of place. What was your kind of?
I like big stages. I like like the fairgrounds and places like that. I like outdoor gigs anyway. There's something about the the sound pressure level isn't quite the same, and it's just there's something about it usually tend to be more all age crowds too. I like that. I mean, we've sort of I don't want to say we've graduated from, but there's no interest for us to do bars now.
Right.
I like that again. The 808-4 Cradle to the Grave. That's our demographic right now. And just playing like fairgrounds and things like that, where you have a nice big system and you're dealing with pros on the stage, good techs and everything, and that's my
I kind of like this.
Yeah.
I because I had some time doing some singer-songwriter things and like this, and it was fun. I started appreciating the ambiance and the connection. It's harder with a lot of people screaming, "Ah!"
I love that.
connection. I love it. Don't get me wrong, but I like this too.
You're right.
Because the conversation surrounds the music, and you can actually tell stories, and it gets a little more intimate.
There are no acoustic guitars and no shows.
And Randy doesn't have to try to play bar chords on Badman way up here when my hands are ready.
Is that what you're doing?
And what was your favorite?
Trying really hard, buddy.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Andre. I'm with both of these guys on that, but I'll pull a favorite place that we used to play regularly that I really liked, and that's a place called the Flaming Mug in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And so a lot of military people would show up. It was a good sized room, about 500 people probably. And
It's almost the size of High Ground Ballroom.
but they almost always had some national act there that we would open for. So we'd get to
Play a show
talk
with
to
Warrant
them
or somebody like that.
Yeah, so that was and
that
they
was a
treated
fun
us
room.
great. It was a real fun room.
Nice. Well,
Again, a similar big room. Yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, it's kind of a mixture. We kind of ran the gamut on that one.
Yeah.
Well, we really loved having you on. We would love you to play one last song to kind of play us out with.
Okay. Let's see what we got here. What's left?
This would be all right.
Oh.
It's so weird because when we do this without the band, it's a different arrangement.
Right.
We were at rehearsal the other night, and I couldn't remember. I kept going, wait a minute, that's not right. I'm trying to sing it, and we keep starting it. I realize I'm not even singing the right song because the words. I'm trying to jam the words into from a different song. No wonder it doesn't feel right. So if I mess it up, I have an excuse.
It's because he's singing a different song.
All right. Ready to slide? It's two chords. If I could fly one more time on these broken wings, then I would try to embrace these forgotten dreams. If I could cry, would I cry empty tears? And if I should die, will I die with you in my prayers? All of my life I spent chasing the truth, but you don't know me. This is my time. I've got nothing to lose, and I wanna live, I wanna breathe, feel your sun as it shines on me. And I know that everything's alright. If I could walk, I would walk till the day was done. If I could stop, I would stop with my face to the sun. If I could ride, only one song for you to hear, then I could fly, fly away from the lonely years. All of my life I spent chasing the truth, but you don't know me, and this is my time. I've got nothing to lose, and I wanna live, I wanna breathe, feel your sun that shines on me. And I know that everything's alright. I wanna live, I wanna breathe, feel your sun that shines on me. And I know that everything's alright. And I wanna live, I wanna breathe, feel your sun as it shines on me. And I know that everything's alright. Everything's alright. Everything's alright. I wanna live, I wanna breathe, feel your sun that shines on me. And I know that everything's alright. I wanna live, I wanna breathe, feel your sun that shines on me. And I know that everything's alright. Everything's alright. It'll be alright.
8:08 they're playing us out. Guys, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. And also best of luck with the
Whatever.
revival. Yeah, the whole thing.
Right back at you.
Yeah,
You know, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Make the most of today, right?
There we go.
I know what's going to happen tomorrow. It's on my calendar.
Well, that's all we've got time for tonight. As for next week, or any future weeks,
Not having next week. We are fixing the museum.
okay, so next week we're fixing the museum. So,
And we have somebody next week, but they have to send me the stuff. So I can put it on the
okay, so
I stand corrected. You do know what's happening next week.
yeah, so next week is going to be confusing. So maybe tune in, maybe don't. But for now, this has been WOMMLP operating out of Burlington, Vermont. 105.9 The Radiator, The Rocket Shop. I've been your host, Tom Proctor, and good night.
You did an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
You're really good at your job. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Great.